The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep hum that echoed through the enormous hall. Captain Jake Morrison stepped inside, his black uniform crisp and clean against the strange colors of alien clothing around him. Behind him walked Lieutenant Lisa Rodriguez, her dark eyes taking in every detail of the room that would decide humanity's future. The chamber was bigger than any building Jake had ever seen on Earth. Hundreds of different aliens sat in curved rows that rose up like a giant bowl. Some looked like walking trees with crystal bark. Others floated in tanks of green liquid. A few had so many arms that Jake lost count. Just looking at them, at the center of it all stood Elder Zixthara, a being made of what looked like living diamond. When she spoke, her voice rang like bells across the chamber. "We gather today to welcome the newest species to our galactic community," she announced. "The humans of Earth have achieved faster-than-light travel and request membership in our council." Jake felt hundreds of alien eyes turning toward him and Lisa. Some looked curious. Others seemed bored. A few appeared hostile, though Jake tried not to think about that too much. The first to speak was a creature that looked like a giant lizard wearing golden armor. War Chieftain Rocktar of the Skalari Dominion rose from his seat with a metallic clatter. "These humans are nothing special," Rocktar said, his voice harsh and loud. "They barely crawled out of their own star system. What can such weak beings offer us?" Murmurs of agreement came from several sections of the chamber. Jake kept his face calm, but his hands tightened into fists at his sides. Lisa placed a gentle hand on his arm, reminding him to stay quiet. An alien that looked like a floating jellyfish with silver tentacles spoke next. "The Altarian Federation agrees with the Skalari. These humans still fight wars on their own planet. They are too primitive for our advanced society." More voices joined in, each one dismissing humanity as backward and weak. Jake watched as species after species stood to explain why humans did not belong among the stars. They talked about humanity like they were discussing a broken machine that needed to be thrown away. Then something changed in the chamber. A section that had been quiet throughout the debate began to stir. The beings there were ancient-looking, with pale skin that seemed to glow in the chamber's lights. Their eyes were completely black, and when they moved, they did so with careful precision. One of them stood up slowly. The entire chamber fell silent. "I am High Curator Melfin of the Vorthic Collective," the being said, in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We have watched this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have seen species rise and fall like waves on a shore." The ancient alien looked directly at War Chieftain Rocktar, then at the other hostile species. "We have also watched the humans for over 500 of their years," Melfin continued. "We studied their history, their wars, their ability to create and destroy. We learned something that all of you should remember." The chamber was so quiet that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. "There is one rule in this galaxy that must never be broken," Melfin said. "Never underestimate humanity. Never corner them. Never give them reason to see you as an enemy. The species that forget this rule do not survive to regret it." War Chieftain Rocktar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You fear these soft creatures? Look at them. They are small and weak. Their ships are slow and simple. What threat could they possibly be?" Other hostile voices joined in. The hegemony of Krex, massive bear-like creatures with steel claws, rumbled their agreement. The raider clans of the Outer Rim, scarred aliens who lived by stealing from others, clicked their approval. Melfin remained calm. "You see their current state and think it represents their limits. This is your first mistake. Humans do not fight like other species. When they are peaceful, they explore and create. When they are threatened, they become something else entirely." The ancient being's black eyes seemed to look through time itself. We have seen them unite their entire planet to fight a common enemy. We watched them turn their tools of peace into weapons of war in mere months. We observed them sacrifice everything to protect those they love. Most importantly, we saw them learn from every defeat and come back stronger. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. This alien had been watching Earth for centuries, studying humanity like scientists study lab rats. Their strength is not in their muscles or their ships, Melvin continued. It is in their ability to adapt, to innovate, to never surrender. When something they care about is threatened, corner a human, and you will discover why their species survived every disaster their planet could throw at them. War Chieftain Roktar stood up again, his armor clanking. Enough of this fear-mongering. The Skalari Dominion has conquered dozens of worlds. We fear no one, especially not these pathetic humans. Several other aggressive species voiced their support. The chamber erupted in argument, with some aliens calling for humanity's acceptance, while others demanded they be sent back to their small corner of space, dot through it all. Jake and Lisa remained silent. They had been ordered to observe and report, not to defend humanity's honor. But Jake burned with anger at the casual dismissal of his species. Finally, Elder Zixthara called for order. We will vote on humanity's membership at our next gathering. Until then, the humans may establish limited trade relations with willing species. As the session ended, Jake and Lisa made their way toward the exit. High Curator Melvin intercepted them near the door. Captain Morrison, the ancient being, said quietly, "Please carry a message to your leaders. The Vorthic Collective offers friendship to humanity. We also offer this warning. Some species in this chamber will test your resolve. When that time comes, remember that we tried to warn them." The alien glided away before Jake could respond. Outside the chamber, Lisa finally spoke. "What do you think he meant by that?" Jake looked back at the massive doors, behind which aliens were still arguing about humanity's fate. "I think he knows something the others don't. And I think we're about to find out what happens when someone ignores that warning." They walked toward their ship in silence, both wondering if humanity was ready for what was coming. Behind them, War Chieftain Roktar was already meeting with his allies, planning to test just how weak these humans really were. The galaxy's greatest mistake was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council meeting, and humanity continued to expand into the stars with careful optimism. The massive colonization ship New Horizon drifted through what every star chart marked as neutral space, carrying 50,000 hopeful settlers toward their new home. Commander Paul Carter stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the viewport. His ship was not built for war. It was a flying city, complete with schools, hospitals, and parks where children played under artificial skies. The New Horizon represented everything good about humanity's reach into space. "Commander, we have 3 escort ships staying close," reported Navigation Officer Danny Walsh. "Captain Sullivan confirms all systems are running smooth." Paul nodded. Captain Amy Sullivan commanded the small fleet of frigates that protected the civilian transport. Her ships were fast and well armed, but they were designed for patrol duty, not major combat. "Any word from our scout ships?" Paul asked. "All clear ahead, sir. We should reach the Kepler system in 18 hours. Paul felt good about the mission. The new colony world had perfect weather, clean water, and soil that could grow earth crops. 50,000 people would start new lives there, far from the crowded cities of Earth. That feeling lasted exactly 12 more minutes. "Commander," sensor operator Rita Brooks called out, her voice tight with worry. "I'm reading multiple contacts on long-range sensors. 6 ships moving fast on an intercept course." Paul moved to her station. "Can you identify them?" "Negative, sir. They're not broadcasting any identification signals. But their ship designs, they look Skalari. The bridge went quiet. Everyone remembered the hostile reception humanity had received at the Galactic Council. Everyone knew which species had been most vocal about considering humans weak prey. Paul opened a channel to the escort fleet. "Captain Sullivan, are you seeing this?" Amy Sullivan's voice came back immediately. "Copy that, New Horizon. I count 6 heavy cruisers, definitely Scolari design. They're not responding to our communication attempts." "What are your orders, Captain?" There was a pause. Paul knew Amy was thinking through impossible choices. 3 frigates against 6 cruisers was not a fair fight. But 50,000 civilians were depending on them. "All escort ships moved to defensive positions around New Horizon," Amy finally said. "Paul, get your people to emergency stations. This doesn't look friendly." The next hour crawled by like a lifetime. The Scolari ships closed the distance steadily, ignoring all attempts at communication. When they were close enough, their intentions became clear. The first missile salvo lit up space like deadly fireworks. "All hands battle stations." Paul shouted over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. All civilians to emergency. Shelters immediately." Captain Sullivan's frigates moved like dancers around the massive colonization ship. The human vessels were smaller and faster than the Scolari cruisers, but they were also heavily outgunned. "New Horizon, this is Sullivan." Amy's voice crackled over the radio. "I'm using your ship as cover. Keep your engines running and be ready to move when I tell you." Paul watched through the bridge windows as one of the escort frigates, the Lightning, streaked past so close he could see scorch marks on her hull. Behind her, Scolari missiles exploded harmlessly against the New Horizon's thick armor plating. "They're using us as a shield," Navigation Officer Walsh said with admiration. "Smart. Thinking." But Paul could see the bigger picture. The Scolari ships were spreading out, trying to surround the human formation. Soon there would be nowhere to hide. "Captain Sullivan, they're flanking us," he reported. "I see it, Paul. Time to try something they won't expect." What happened next became legend in human military academies. Captain Sullivan ordered the New Horizon to dump its waste heat directly toward the largest Scolari cruiser. The superheated gas created a cloud that blocked sensors and communications. While the enemy ship struggled to see through the interference, the frigate Thunder came in fast and low, using the New Horizon's bulk to hide its approach. The small, human ship opened fire at point-blank range, crippling the cruiser's engines. "How did she know that would work?" Walsh asked. "Because she thinks like a human," Paul replied. "We don't fight fair when lives are at stake." The battle continued for 3 more hours. Captain Sullivan used every trick she could think of. She turned the colonization ship's industrial equipment into weapons, launching construction pods like missiles and using mining charges as improvised bombs. The civilian shuttles became part of the fight, too. Volunteer pilots flew the small craft in crazy patterns around the Scolari ships, drawing fire away from the military vessels and confusing enemy targeting systems. Dr. Helen Torres, the colony's chief medical officer, even contributed by venting medical waste from the New Horizons hospitals, creating a toxic cloud that forced one Scolari ship to change course. But the humans were still outnumbered. The frigate Storm took heavy damage and had to fall back. The Thunder lost her main weapons in a direct hit. The Lightning was running out of missiles. Then something unexpected happened. The New Horizons chief engineer, Bobby Martinez, came up with an idea that changed everything. "Commander, we can overload our fusion reactors and create an electromagnetic pulse," he said. "It won't hurt our ships because we're hardened against it, but alien technology might not be." Paul looked at the tactical display. 2 Scolari cruisers were crippled, but 4 were still fighting. His escort ships were badly damaged and low on ammunition. It was worth the risk. "Do it," he ordered. The pulse erupted from the New Horizon like invisible lightning. 3 of the remaining Scolari ships immediately went dark, their systems fried by the energy wave. The 4th ship, apparently better protected, tried to retreat. Captain Sullivan's damaged frigates pursued the fleeing cruiser, the Lightning, down to her last few missiles, managed to cripple its engines. The Scolari ship drifted helplessly as the human vessels surrounded it. "This is Captain Amy Sullivan of the Human Defense Force," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You attacked a civilian vessel without provocation. Your ship is disabled. Surrender now, or we will destroy you." The Scolari response was a single missile fired at the New Horizon. It was their last mistake. The 3 human frigates opened fire together, turning the alien cruiser into expanding debris. The aftermath was sobering. The New Horizon had taken damage, and 300 colonists had died when a Scolari missile breached the outer hull. The escort ships were barely functional, but they had won. 6 Scolari cruisers had attacked, and 6 Scolari cruisers had been destroyed or disabled. Word of the battle spread quickly through human space. Admiral Kevin Brooks, commander of Earth's Defense Fleet, called an emergency meeting as soon as the reports reached him. This was no random pirate attack, he told President Helen Martinez and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This was a coordinated strike designed to test our defenses. President Martinez studied the battle reports. "What's your assessment, Admiral?" The Scolari expected easy prey. Instead, they found humans who refused to be victims. But this is just the beginning. If they're willing to attack our civilians, they're planning something bigger. Meanwhile, in Scolari space, War Chieftain Raktar received his own reports. The attack had been meant to demonstrate human weakness to the galaxy. Instead, it had shown that humans could fight back effectively, even when surprised and outnumbered. "The humans are stronger than we thought," one of his officers reported. "But they are still only 3 ships against our entire fleet." Raktar studied the tactical data. The humans had used unconventional tactics and turned civilian equipment into weapons. They had fought with a coordination that spoke of extensive training and preparation. "Gather our allies," he ordered. "The hegemony of Krex, the Raider clans, all of them. If these humans want to fight, we will give them a war they cannot win." Back on the New Horizon, Commander Paul Carter walked through the damaged sections of his ship. Repair crews worked around the clock to fix the hull breaches and restore damaged systems. He stopped at a memorial wall where the names of the dead were already being inscribed. 300 people who had left Earth to build a better life, killed by aliens who saw humans as easy targets. "Commander," Dr. Torres approached him. "The families are asking when we'll reach the colony." Paul looked out through a cracked viewport. "At the stars ahead. We keep going, Doctor. We don't let them stop us from building our new home." But even as he said it, Paul knew that everything had changed. Humanity had fired its first shots in what would become a galactic war. The question now was whether they were ready for what was coming next. In the depths of space, Vorthik ships watched and recorded the battle. High Curator Melthun reviewed the data with ancient eyes that had seen the rise and fall of countless species. "So it begins," he whispered to himself. "The galaxy will learn why we warned them never to cross." Humanity. The attack came without warning at dawn on New Appalachia. Governor Janet Pierce was drinking her morning coffee when the first explosions shook the ground beneath her feet. Through her office window, she watched alien ships descend from the sea. Sky like metal locusts, their weapons turning the peaceful farming settlements into fields of fire. "All units, this is Governor Pierce," she spoke into her emergency communicator. "We are under attack. Begin immediate civilian evacuation procedures. This is not a drill." The colony of New Appalachia was home to nearly 3 million humans who had come to this world seeking peaceful lives as farmers, teachers, and builders. They had never expected war to follow them across the galaxy. Captain Derek Hughes commanded the small defense force stationed on the planet. His 2 patrol cruisers, the Defender and the Guardian, were meant to handle pirates and smugglers, not a full invasion fleet. As he watched his sensors count the incoming ships, his heart sank. "Sir, I count 47 enemy vessels," his communications officer reported. "They're Scolari, but I'm also seeing Krek's heavy battleships and what looks like Raider Clan destroyers." Derek felt his mouth go dry. 47 ships against his 2 cruisers. The odds were impossible, but 3 million civilians were counting on him to buy them time to escape. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered. "Launch all fighters. Contact the surface defense batteries and tell them to start shooting anything that doesn't have a human pilot." The space battle above New Appalachia became a lesson in desperation and courage. Captain Hughes split his small force, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot around enemy formations while his fighters harassed the larger ships like angry insects. The Defender took heavy damage in the first exchange, losing her main engines and half her weapons. But Derek refused to retreat. Instead, he ordered his ship to ram directly into a Scolari cruiser, using the momentum to drive both vessels into the planet's atmosphere. "Sir, we can't survive atmospheric entry with this." "Much damage," his pilot warned. "Then we make sure they don't survive it either," Derek replied. The collision destroyed both ships, but it also took out 3 more enemy vessels that were too close to avoid the debris field. 5 alien ships destroyed for the price of 1 human. Cruiser. Captain Sarah Lewis, commanding the Guardian, watched her fellow captain's sacrifice and felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. She opened a channel to all remaining human forces. "Listen up, people. They came to our home. They're killing our families. We're going to make them pay for every meter of ground they take." The Guardian began using tactics that no military academy taught. Sarah ordered her crew to overload their fusion reactor and use it as a massive bomb, ejecting it toward the largest Krek's battleship before jumping to safety. The explosion took out the enemy flagship and damaged 4 other vessels. The surface, Governor Pierce coordinated the largest evacuation in human history. Civilian transports, cargo haulers, and even private shuttles formed a steady stream of ships carrying refugees away from the battle zone. "How much time do we need?" she asked her evacuation coordinator. "At least 3 more days to get everyone." "Off-planet, ma'am. Maybe 4. Pierce looked at the tactical display showing the space battle above. The human forces were fighting brilliantly, but they were being steadily overwhelmed. They might have hours, not days. "Tell the mining crews to bring their industrial charges," she ordered. "If these aliens want our planet, they're going to have to dig it out of the rubble." The surface defense batteries, designed to handle small raiders, opened fire on the massive invasion fleet. They knew their weapons could barely scratch the enemy armor, but they fired anyway. Every shot that missed its target was aimed to explode. Near evacuation ships, providing cover for the fleeing civilians, mining supervisor Carl Johnson led a team of volunteers who turned the colony's mining equipment into improvised weapons. Huge excavators became mobile artillery platforms. Industrial explosives were rigged as booby traps throughout the major cities. "They want to conquer our home?" Carl said to his team. "Let's give them a home they'll never forget." The defense of New Appalachia lasted 3 days and 2 nights. Human forces used every trick they could think of. They turned water treatment plants into chemical weapon factories. They rigged fusion power stations to overload and create massive electromagnetic pulses. They even used the colony's weather control satellites to create storms that disrupted enemy communications. But the numbers were too great. One by one, The human positions fell silent. The last transmission from the surface came from Governor Pierce herself. "This is Janet Pierce, last governor of New Appalachia. We have evacuated 2.7 million civilians. The remaining 300,000 chose to stay and fight. We will not surrender. We will not give up. And we will make sure these aliens remember the price of attacking innocent humans." The final battle took place in the colony's capital city. Governor Pierce, armed with nothing but a hunting rifle and the determination to protect her people, led the last defenders in a building-to-building fight that lasted 18 hours. When the aliens finally overran the government building, they found Governor Pierce dead at her desk, her finger still on the detonator that had collapsed half the city. Rather than let it fall intact into enemy hands, the news reached Earth just as similar reports arrived from 2 other human colonies. New Geneva had fallen after a 5-day siege. Port Liberty had been evacuated just hours before the attack, but the orbital shipyards had been destroyed. President Helen Martinez stood in the Emergency Operations Center, surrounded by military, advisors, and cabinet members. The reports painted a picture of coordinated attacks across human space, designed to break humanity's will to expand into the galaxy. "How many casualties?" she asked quietly. Admiral Kevin Brooks consulted his tablet. "Preliminary estimates show 400,000 civilians dead or missing. We've lost 6 colonies and 3 major industrial facilities." The room fell silent. In humanity's brief time among the stars, they had never faced losses on this scale. "What are your recommendations, Admiral?" Brooks stood straighter. "Madam President, this was not a random attack. This was a coordinated attempt to destroy human civilization beyond Earth. The enemy expects us to retreat back to our home system and hide. And what do you think we should do? I think we should show them what happens when you kill human children." President. Martinez walked to the window overlooking the sprawling cities of Earth. Below her, millions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that their species had just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. "Admiral Brooks, you are hereby appointed Supreme Commander of all human military forces. You have unlimited authority to mobilize whatever resources you need." She turned back to face the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, as of today, humanity is at war. Not a police action, not a peacekeeping mission, but total war against those who chose to murder our people." The transformation began immediately. Across human space, civilian factories stopped producing cars and computers and began building warships and weapons. Research stations abandoned their peaceful projects and focused on military technology. Universities became training centers for officers and engineers. Dr. Nathan Price, humanity's leading weapons researcher, received a call that changed his life forever. "Doctor, this is Admiral Brooks. I need weapons that can kill things we've never seen before. I need them fast, and I need them to work the first time we use them. Admiral, my research has always focused on defensive applications. Doctor, they killed 400,000 humans yesterday. How defensive do you feel right now?" The question hung in the air for a long moment. "I'll have preliminary designs ready in 72 hours, Dr. Price replied. Meanwhile, General Lisa Chong began developing new combat doctrines based on the lessons learned from the colonial defenses. The aliens expected humans to fight like other species, using conventional tactics and predictable strategies. "We're going to give them something they've never seen before," she told her staff. "We're going to fight like humans." Recruitment centers across Earth saw lines of volunteers stretching for blocks. Young and old, they came to serve. Some had lost family in the attacks. Others simply understood that humanity's survival was at stake. The industrial capacity of an entire species turned toward war. Shipyards that had been building exploration vessels began producing destroyers and cruisers. Mining operations focused on extracting materials for armor and weapons. But perhaps the most significant change was in humanity itself. The species that had approached the galaxy with open hands and peaceful intentions had been forced to remember why they had survived every disaster their home planet could create in the depths of space. Vorthic observers watched the transformation with ancient eyes that had seen this pattern before. The humans are awakening, High Curator Melfin reported. To his council, the Scolari have made the same mistake that destroyed the hegemony of Vex, the mistake that ended the reign of the Destroyer clans. What mistake is that? Asked a younger Vorthic. They gave humanity a reason to unite, a reason to fight, and a reason to hate. Now they will learn why we warned them never to cross this species. Across the galaxy, alien species watched the reports from the human. In the months that followed, the galaxy transformed around this new reality. The hegemony of Krex officially surrendered and requested human protection from other aggressive species. The Raider clans disbanded rather than face human retaliation. More importantly, dozens of peaceful species that had been threatened by aggressive neighbors suddenly found themselves under human protection. The same species that had been dismissed as weak prey became the galaxy's protectors. High Curator Melfin addressed the reformed Galactic Council in chambers that now included Earth as a permanent member. Let this be recorded in the archives. Of all species, he said, the galaxy learned the price of ignoring its most important rule. Never corner humanity. Never threaten their families. Never give them reason to consider you an enemy. He paused, looking up. War Chieftain Raktar stood in his command center, watching the tactical displays with growing desperation. His alliance was falling apart. The hegemony of Krex had withdrawn their forces after the disaster at Meridian. The Raider clans had scattered to avoid human retaliation. Even his own Scolari commanders were questioning his leadership. Sir, we have lost contact with 17 forward bases in the past week, reported his aide. Human forces appear to be striking everywhere at once. Raktar studied the battle reports. The humans were not just winning battles anymore. They were systematically destroying every Scolari facility they could find, cutting supply lines and eliminating strategic positions with surgical precision. How many ships do we have left? 843 vessels, sir, but many are damaged and need repairs. 800 ships, still more than the humans could field. Raktar made his decision. Gather every available vessel. We strike. At Earth itself. If we destroy their homeworld, this war ends. It was the biggest mistake in galactic history. Admiral Kevin Brooks received the intelligence report while reviewing fleet positions from his command center on Terra Prime, Earth's massive orbital defense station. The data came from Vorthic sources, who had been quietly supporting humanity throughout the war. Sir, we have confirmation. The entire Scolari fleet is moving toward Earth. Over 800 ships. Brooks felt his blood turn cold. Earth's defenses were strong, but 800 enemy ships represented the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. How long until they reach us? 72 hours, sir. Brooks opened a communication channel to every human military commander in the system. All units, this is Admiral Brooks. The enemy is coming to our home. Every ship, every weapon, every person who can fight is needed. This is not just another battle. This is the fight for humanity's survival. President Martinez stood in the Emergency Operations Center, surrounded by her cabinet and military advisors. Through the windows, she could see the lights of Earth's cities, home to 8 billion humans who had no idea their species was about to face extinction. What are our chances? She asked quietly. The enemy outnumbers us 3-1, Admiral. Brooks replied honestly. But we have advantages they don't expect. Our defenses are stronger than they appear, and our people are fighting for their homes. And if we lose, then humanity ends here. But I don't think we're going to lose. The preparation for Earth's defense became the greatest mobilization in human history. Every spaceship capable of combat joined the fleet. Civilian vessels were armed with whatever weapons could be mounted. Orbital platforms revealed hidden weapon systems that had been secretly installed during the war. Captain Jim Parker commanded one of the orbital defense stations, Platform 7, which protected the approach to Earth's major population centers. His crew consisted of volunteers from every walk of life, united by the determination to protect their world. Remember, people, he told his crew, every shot we fire might save 1 million lives on the surface. Make them count. Colonel Rachel Murray coordinated the surface-to-space weapons that would support the orbital battle. Hidden missile silos and laser batteries had been built into mountains and ocean floors, disguised as civilian facilities. The enemy expects our planet to be defenseless, she explained to her commanders. They're about to learn that humans don't leave their homes unprotected. But the real surprise was waiting in the outer system. Admiral Sarah Kim's task force, Vengeance, had been reinforced and repositioned to strike the enemy fleet from behind once they committed to attacking Earth. We let them get close to the planet, Sarah explained to her captains. When they think they're winning, we hit them from behind and crush them between our forces and Earth's defenses. The Scholarly fleet arrived at Earth exactly on schedule. Rakhtar stood on his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, and looked at the blue planet that had spawned humanity. Such a small world to cause so much trouble, he said to his officers. Begin the bombardment. I want every city burning within the hour. The alien fleet moved into attack formation, confident that they faced only token resistance. Their sensors detected human ships, but far fewer than expected. The planet's defenses appeared minimal. It was all an illusion. The moment the first Scholarly missile was fired at Earth, every hidden weapon in the system opened fire simultaneously. Asteroid mining stations revealed themselves as massive gun platforms. Communication satellites turned out to be missile launchers. Even the moon's research stations began firing weapons that had been disguised as scientific equipment. What is this? Rakhtar demanded as his fleet suddenly found itself under attack from dozens of unexpected directions. The battle for Earth became the largest space engagement in galactic history. Human defenders fought with a desperation that bordered on madness. Knowing that failure meant the death of their species. Captain Amy Sullivan, now commanding the battleship Humanity's Will, led a direct assault on the enemy flagship. Her ship was smaller and less heavily armed than the Destroyer of Worlds, but she had something the aliens lacked, the absolute certainty that she was fighting for something worth dying for. All weapons target their command sections, she ordered. If we take out their leadership, the rest will fall apart. The Humanity's Will charged directly through the enemy formation, absorbing damage that would have destroyed most ships. But human engineering had learned from every previous battle, and the ship's armor was designed to turn enemy fire into additional power for its weapons. Platform 7, Captain Parker's orbital station, became the focus of a massive enemy assault. Dozens of Scholarly ships concentrated their fire on the platform, trying to clear the way for their bombardment of Earth's surface. Platform 7 to all units, Parker broadcast. We're taking heavy damage, but we're not backing down. Every minute we hold is another minute for the civilians below to reach safety. The platform's weapons continued firing, even as sections of it exploded under enemy fire. Parker's crew worked their stations until the very end, some dying at their posts rather than abandon their duty. Just as the enemy fleet began to break through Earth's inner defenses, Admiral Kim's task force arrived from the outer system. Hundreds of human warships struck the Scholarly fleet from behind, catching them completely off guard. All ships, this is Admiral Kim. Remember New Appalachia. Remember every human child they killed. No prisoners, no mercy. The human fleet fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Ships with damaged engines rammed enemy vessels. Crews with failing life support continued firing their weapons. Pilots whose fighters were destroyed used their craft as guided missiles. Captain Tony Rodriguez, his ship crippled and life support failing, managed one final transmission before ramming his cruiser into the enemy flagship. For humanity, he said simply. The explosion that destroyed both ships lit up the space around Earth like a second sun. War Chieftain Roktar found himself aboard a dying ship, his fleet scattered and burning around him. The humans had turned what should have been an easy victory into a devastating defeat. How? He whispered. How did they know where we would attack? How were they ready for us? The answer came from an unexpected source. High Curator Melfin of the Vorthik Collective appeared on his communication screen. We told them you were coming, the ancient alien said calmly. We warned you at the Galactic Council not to cross humanity. You chose not to listen. You betrayed. You? The Vorthik were supposed to be neutral. We are neutral. But we are also wise. We have watched species rise and fall for 10,000 years. Humanity will survive and prosper. The Scolari will not. Roktar's ship exploded before he could. Reply. The Battle of Earth ended with the complete destruction of the Scolari fleet. Not a single enemy ship escaped to carry word of the defeat back to their homeworld Dot in the aftermath. President Martinez stood before the United Earth Assembly to address not just humanity, but the entire galaxy that was watching through captured communication channels. To the species of the galaxy, we say this: humanity sought peace. We asked for friendship. We offered cooperation. Some of you responded with violence and murder. Her voice carried across the stars, translated into hundreds of alien languages. Today, you have learned the price of that choice. We do not seek conquest or dominance, but we will never again allow ourselves to be victims. Any species that threatens human children, human families, or human worlds will face the same fate. As the Scolari, the message was clear. Humanity had tried to join the galactic community as equals. Instead, they had been forced to become its newest superpower. Colonies with growing unease. Some began to question their support for the Scolari alliance. Others wonder Admiral Sarah Kim stood on the bridge of the battleship Vengeance, watching the enemy base grow larger on her main screen. Kepler Station was the largest Scolari military facility outside their home system, a massive fortress that supplied weapons and ships to their invasion fleets. Today, it would burn. All ships, this is Admiral Kim. Operation Payback begins in 60 seconds. Remember what they did to New Appalachia. Remember the 400,000. Her fleet, Task Force Vengeance, consisted of 37 warships built specifically for this moment. Every vessel had been designed using lessons learned from the colonial battles. Every weapon had been tested against captured alien technology. Admiral, enemy sensors have detected us, reported Captain Tony Rodriguez from his stealth cruiser position near the station. They're launching fighters. Sarah smiled coldly. The Scolari expected a direct assault, ship against ship in open space. They were about to learn that humans fought differently now. Begin electronic warfare operations, she ordered. Across the human fleet, specialized ships began broadcasting signals that turned the station's own defensive systems against each other. Communications networks crashed. Targeting computers began, firing at friendly vessels. Automated defenses started attacking the fighters they were supposed to protect. A Scolari base commander, General Vex Star, watched his control boards light up with error messages and contradictory data. What is happening to our systems? Unknown, sir. Our computers are receiving commands that appear to come from our own network, but the orders make no sense. Switch to manual control. All of it, but switching to manual control meant losing the coordination that made the base's defenses effective. Human ships began appearing from unexpected directions, striking targets that should have been protected by overlapping fire zones. Captain Nicole Foster led a squadron of assault ships directly into the station's docking bays. Her vessels were small and fast, designed to penetrate enemy defenses and cause maximum damage from the inside. All teams, remember the plan. We're not here to capture anything. We're here to break everything we can find. Her Marines stormed through the station corridors, planting charges on critical systems and fighting their way toward the main reactor complex. But these were not the same humans who had pleaded for peaceful membership in the galactic community 6 months ago. Lieutenant Danny Walsh kicked down a door and found himself face to face with a Scolari warrior twice his size. The alien raised a weapon that could have cut Danny in half, but the human was faster. A burst from his new assault rifle dropped the warrior before he could fire. "Room clear," Danny reported, moving on to the next target. His team had practiced this assault 100 times in simulation. They knew exactly where to place their charges for maximum effect. The new human weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Dr. Nathan Price's research team had created guns that adapted to each target, ammunition that learned from misses, and armor that turned enemy fire into additional power for the wearer. But the real revolution was in how humans fought together. Every Marine, every pilot, every ship captain was connected through communication networks that allowed them to coordinate like a single organism. Sergeant Lisa Murphy found herself surrounded by 6 Scolari soldiers in a storage bay deep inside the station. Instead of panic, she felt calm focus. Her helmet display showed her exactly where her teammates were positioned throughout the facility. "Rodriguez, I need suppressing fire on Corridor 7 in 10 seconds, she said quietly. "Copy that, Murphy." Exactly 10 seconds later, explosions rocked the corridors above her position. The Scolari soldiers looked up in confusion, and Murphy used that moment to eliminate 3 of them. The remaining aliens tried to retreat, only to run into another human team that had been moving to support her. The assault on Kepler Station lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the massive facility was a drifting wreck, its reactors destroyed and its manufacturing capabilities reduced to scrap metal. But Admiral Kim had captured something more valuable than any base. The station's central computer contained detailed information about the entire Scolari military network, including the locations of their hidden supply depots and the names of their alien allies. "Admiral, we have intelligence on 43 enemy facilities," reported Intelligence Officer Janet Moore. "Supply bases, shipyards, and what appears to be their main fleet concentration point." Sarah studied the data. The Scolari had been building their forces for this war for over a year, establishing hidden bases throughout the galaxy and recruiting allies with promises of easy conquest. "Transmit all data to Earth Command immediately, then set course for the Meridian system. It's time to test our ground forces." The battle for Meridian became the first major ground engagement between human and alien forces. The planet was strategically important to both sides, controlling a major shipping route that the Scolari needed to supply their forward bases. General Lisa Chong led the human ground assault personally. Her forces were smaller than the defending Krek's army, but they had advantages that the massive bear-like aliens could not match. "Remember, we're not trying to match them strength for strength," she told her battalion commanders. "We're faster, smarter, and we work together better. Use those advantages." The Krek's warriors were individually superior to human soldiers. They stood 3 meters tall, had natural armor plating, and could tear a human apart with their bare claws. But they fought like individual champions, each one seeking personal glory in combat. Humans fought like a pack of wolves. "Lieutenant, Colonel Mark Taylor led his regiment in a series of coordinated strikes that confused and divided the Krek's forces. While one human unit engaged the enemy directly, others would attack from unexpected directions, forcing the aliens to split their attention. "They keep appearing where we don't expect them," complained Krek's war leader Gorthik. "How are they moving so quickly?" The answer was human innovation. Dr. Price's research teams had developed new mobility systems that allowed soldiers to move across terrain that would stop conventional forces. Powered armor gave humans strength to match their alien opponents. Advanced communication systems let them coordinate attacks with precision timing. But the real advantage was psychological. Human soldiers had seen the footage from New Appalachia. They had watched children's hospitals burning under alien fire. They fought not just for victory, but for revenge. Sergeant Carl Wilson's squad was pinned down by Krek's heavy weapons when they received an impossible order. All units advance to contact. Drive them back. Carl looked at his 5 remaining soldiers. They were facing at least 30 Krek's warriors with heavy support weapons. Advancing meant certain death. "You heard the order," he said quietly. "For New Appalachia." "For New Appalachia," his soldiers replied. They advanced. What happened next became legend throughout human space. Carl's squad moved forward under heavy fire, using every piece of cover and supporting each other with tactical precision. When one soldier fell, another took his place without missing a step. The Krek's warriors, expecting the humans to retreat or surrender, found themselves facing an enemy that simply would not stop coming. No matter how much firepower they used, the humans kept advancing, kept fighting, kept coordinating their attacks. The psychological impact was devastating. Krek's forces that had never retreated from any enemy began falling back in confusion and fear. "How do we fight an enemy that refuses to die?" Gorthik asked his advisors. "We don't," replied his second-in-command. "We retreat and call for reinforcements." But retreating only gave the humans more opportunities to attack. Human forces seemed to appear everywhere at once, striking supply convoys, communication centers, and isolated outposts with coordinated precision. The Battle of Meridian ended with complete human victory. An entire Krek's army, considered among the finest warriors in the galaxy, had been defeated by a human force half its size. News of the victory spread rapidly through both human and alien space. The species that had been dismissed as weak prey just months before were now feared as unstoppable conquerors. Dr. Helen Torres, now serving as a combat medic on Meridian, treated both human and alien wounded. She noticed something that disturbed her about the alien prisoners. "They're terrified," she reported to General Chong. "These Krek soldiers are supposed to be fearless warriors, but they flinch every time a human walks past." "What are they afraid of?" "Us. They're afraid of us. They keep asking the same questions. How do humans coordinate so perfectly? How do they keep fighting when they should be dead? How do they know exactly where to attack?" General Chong considered this information carefully. The humans had won battles through superior tactics and technology, but they were also winning a psychological war that they had not even realized they were fighting. Meanwhile, the Skalari Alliance was beginning to crack. The hegemony of Kreks demanded explanations for their defeat on Meridian. The Raider clans questioned whether they had chosen the wrong side in this conflict. War Chieftain Raktar found himself defending his decisions to increasingly hostile allies. "The humans are lucky," he insisted. "A few victories mean nothing. Our combined fleets still outnumber theirs 10 to 1. But privately, Raktar was beginning